Forget everything you learned in school. No, seriously. The neat little timeline in your textbook? Myths. The first Americans didn't politely line up on a bridge of ice, wave their passports, and stroll into history. It was messier, stranger, and far more brutal than you can imagine. Picture yourself standing at the edge of an undiscovered world, a land teeming with colossal beasts, sprawling forests, and a chill that doesn't merely nip at your skin, but gnaws deep into your bones. You're about to meet the people who braved this realm first, people who crossed into a world no human had ever laid eyes on before. And the most intriguing part? You're one of them. Dim the lights, get comfortable. Let's explore the reality of who the first Americans truly were. You awaken in a landscape starkly different from anything resembling modern America. But that's because it's not America. Not yet. You're somewhere in ancient Siberia, about 2,000 years ago. The ground is an icy expanse, the winds are biting, and survival is not just a necessity, it's the only ambition. Forget today's digital leisure. Your source of entertainment is observing a woolly mammoth succumb to the cold and pondering if you can feast on it before decay sets in. Food is scarce, hunger is constant. Sustenance comes from meager scraps of meat, frostbitten roots unearthed from the permafrost, and occasionally a hapless reindeer. Fire is your lifeline, but igniting it is laborious. One spark signifies warmth, light, and cooked food. A missed spark spells icy doom. You don't consider history's edge as you tread through the wilderness. Instead, you perceive a world in flux. The creatures you hunt are on the move. Herds veer northward and eastward, leaving behind the lands that were once your home. Even the earth seems restless. Ice sheets shift and groan distantly. Change is inevitable, and you, willing or not, must change with it. Welcome to the threshold. You're about to become one of the first Americans. Here's the twist. There's no America yet. No Statue of Liberty, no baseball, no Starbucks. Just unending miles of terrain sprawled across soon-to-be-called Beringia. A massive, flat expanse of grass and ice revealed by receded sea levels. Unbeknownst to you, the ocean stands trapped in glaciers, unveiling a path from Siberia to Alaska. Fortuitously for you, the greatest journey in human history lies uncompromised. But set aside the notion of a glamorous expedition. This isn't a familial wagon trek with cheerful farewells. It's sheer survival, pursue sustenance or perish. Each step across Beringia is a test driven by hunger, thirst, and freezing winds. Here's your dual predicament. An abundance of unoccupied land promises the growth of civilizations. But as soon as sea levels rise again, you're isolated. You and your progeny are confined to what strangers will term the New World, indefinitely. Though the air bites with cold, the land is alive. Steppe bison roam. Wild horses gallop. Mammoths and saber-toothed behemoths wait, oblivious that you, a diminutive primate wielding stones with grand ideas, are their new neighbor. Yet in your mind, thoughts of colonization, or first American, are absent. You live moment to moment. The meat tastes best when fresh, children wail less when fed, and the land ahead alludes to a promise greater than what lies behind. You journey onward, step by precarious step. The nights, a relentless ordeal. Your refuge, animal skins stretched over bone, a meager shield from cutting winds. You huddle close, enveloped in the aroma of smoke, sweat, and unwashed survival. It's no luxury, but at least it's warmth. At some juncture, you cease pondering why. The Ice Age holds no regard for human sentiment. It disregards your aspirations, comforts, or dignity. It's indifferent, demanding only one feat: survival. And if you endure, if perpetual movement becomes your existence, then, unknowingly, you'll cross into a continent untainted by human footsteps. You'll gaze upon vast prairies, intricate river systems, and majestic peaks piercing the sky. Without awareness, your trek sets the groundwork for a 2,000-year tale, one of tribes, nations, conflict, and astonishing achievements. This era of survival defies all probabilities, but for now, you're simply frigid, starving, and painfully distant from anything familiar. In the vast tapestry of human history, imagine a scene where the world unveils its raw, untamed face. This is not a tale bound within the cozy confines of civilization. No, this is a story of relentless perseverance, of souls etched into an icy paradise that time has nearly forgotten. Picture this: Beringia, a land not defined by the lines of our maps, but a realm crafted by the whims of our planet's breath, where the oceans part to bestow a fleeting gift. You are a wanderer here, with every stride echoing through a landscape that defies finitude. Your task is simple yet profound: to walk. There is no written contract, no guarantees of comfort or warmth. The only certainty is the ceaseless rhythm of your journey, painting a path across lands unfathomable in their desolation and beauty. Beringia is no bridge in a geography lesson. It is an entity unto itself, expansive and breathless, a vast expanse created in a brief epoch when seas gave way to earth. It stretches far beyond what the eye can see, a frozen canvas where the wind sculpts destiny against a backdrop of endless sky and ground. The very air you breathe is filled with the frosty bite of survival. Your feet crush snow and grass beneath them, an unchanging vista that mirrors the constancy of your pilgrimage. Each step tells a story, a saga of individuals united by a common goal: survival. Your shoes are rudimentary creations of hide and sinew, wards against the harsh earth that barely serve their purpose. They reflect the spirit of your existence, functional in form, stark in necessity. You travel with a community, a small collection of souls bound by kinship and the trials of nomadic life. In the heart of this frozen wasteland, life persists in its most elemental form. Children's cries of hunger pierce the night, a chorus of need and vitality. The old amidst your ranks share their wheezy testimony of time, lingering memories in a place where survival eclipses ceremony. Your passage is haunted by specters of mammoths and beasts whose fate you entwine with your own through hunts both valiant and perilous. The ground shakes with their presence as you orchestrate your tactics with ancient cunning. Should fortune favor you, a bounty of sustenance and resources awaits, a lifeline woven by the hide and bone of fallen giants. Yet, risk clings to every hunt. The specter of failure looms, shadows of trampled predecessors warning in silence. In this unforgiving landscape, your diet becomes as diverse as necessity demands. Meat is but a fraction of your sustenance. Organs, marrow, all are consumed with a reverence born of desperation. Every morsel is a testament to your indomitable will to endure. Night enfolds you with its stark embrace, a velvet-cloaked world suffused with howling winds and creeping chill. Your shelters are meager barricades against nature's incessant challenge. Fires flicker dimly, cores of warmth scarce yet fiercely guarded, their sporadic glow a precious bastion against the engulfing cold. Sleep, elusive and fragmented, dances between dreams edged with hunger and the ominous lullaby of wolves pacing beyond the fleeting glow. In the grand design of survival, you remain unknowingly stranded, perched on the cusp of continents. Beringia spans as a liminal entity, a buffer between what was and what will be. It pits your resolve against stagnation, offering a purgatorial stage upon which generations carve their existence from the ice. Children breathe their first within this expanse, unaware of any world but this. To some, its embrace becomes home, a place woven with the rhythms of life, bold in its provision of fish, reindeer, and the essential bones of sustenance. For your part, Beringia remains a trial, relentless in its demand that you move forward, driven not by choice but by the orchestration of survival. Eastward you journey, propelled by migrations of beasts and whispers of climate. Glaciers stand as monolithic challenges on your horizon, unyielding yet ephemeral. Trapped within this ice-bound eternity, you trace paths that will one day be submerged, erased from view, yet indelibly part of a narrative as old as humanity itself. Your story unfolds as the glaciers, in their own time, recede to reveal lands both new and ripe for discovery. You will take that step, leaving behind the eternal stretch of Beringia to carve your chapter in the growing saga of the Americas. Yet, until that day, you walk. This journey is your essence, indelible footprints across a world that may forget the details, but will forever remember the spirit. The ice finally shifts, not because it feels generous, but because the planet itself is changing. The glaciers that once walled you in start to melt, retreating like tired giants. Corridors of land open between them, narrow but passable. And that's all you need. A crack in the armor of the Ice Age. A door into a world no human has ever touched. You step through. The ground is different here. Not the endless flat misery of Beringia, but valleys, rivers, forests. The air feels sharper, cleaner. You don't know it, but you're standing in what will someday be Canada, though it looks nothing like postcards. No polite maple leaves, no hockey, just raw wilderness stretching in every direction. And here's the thing, it feels empty. But it's not. It's teeming with life. Herds of bison so large they look like moving storms. Horses running wild. Giant sloths the size of trucks, dragging themselves through the brush. And the mammoths, hulking, shaggy reminders that yes, this land is still trying to kill you, but it's generous enough to feed you too. You don't enter like a conqueror, you sneak in like a thief, following rivers, tracking animals, carrying only what you can. Your weapons are still stone and bone, sharp, yes, but fragile. Every hunt is a gamble. If the spear breaks, you starve. If you miss, you starve. If the beast notices you first, well, you stop being part of the story. Congrats. You're now America's newest invasive species. The land here doesn't know what to do with you. For millions of years, predators have been big, saber-toothed cats, dire wolves, short-faced bears. But here you come, small, hairless, with nothing but sharp rocks and too much stubbornness. And somehow, you manage to tip the balance, slowly, relentlessly. Every camp you build feels temporary, hides stretched over wood, fires burning low. You tell yourself you'll move on tomorrow, and then tomorrow comes, and you actually do. Always chasing food, always chasing safety. Your homes aren't really homes. They're pauses in an endless march. You don't know that your descendants will spread south, through forests, across plains, over mountains, until one day they reach the very tip of South America. From the Arctic to Patagonia, a full continental takeover in just a few thousand years. Fast, by human standards. Catastrophic, by ecological ones. But right now, you're just tired. And hungry. Again. You've noticed something, though. The animals here don't fear you. Not yet. They haven't learned. They stand too long when you creep close, curious, confused. That won't last. Soon, entire species will vanish because of you. Mammoths, mastodons, giant sloths, gone. Wiped out by your sharp stones, your clever traps, your unrelenting need to eat. Do you feel guilty? Not really. You're not here for conservation. You're here because your children cry when their stomachs are empty. You're here because the Ice Age doesn't hand out second chances. The rivers become your highways, the mountains your barriers. You spread in small groups, never more than a few dozen souls. Every new valley feels like a secret only you know. Every footprint is a claim, whether you realize it or not. And the land, for now, is generous. Freshwater streams, herds fat with meat, forests with berries, roots, nuts. You almost start to believe you've outsmarted the cold, the hunger, the endless walking. Almost. But deep down, you know better. Survival is temporary. Comfort is a trick. The next winter could kill half of you. A failed hunt could finish the rest. And the land you think you've discovered? It's not yours. Not yet. It will fight back with storms, beasts, and sheer indifference. Still, you keep moving. Because that's what you do. Step after step. Fire after fire. From one unknown into another. And with those first uncertain footsteps into this untouched land, you've just rewritten human history. Not that you'll ever know it. For you, it's just another day, another walk, another chance to keep the children alive until morning. Your hands are raw from work. They always are. Every scrap of survival in this new world is carved out by your own muscles, your own cracked fingernails, your own patience. And most importantly, by stone. Stone is your iPhone, your Swiss Army knife, your entire technology package. And right now, you and your people have invented something new, something sharp, something deadly. It's called a Clovis point, though of course you don't call it that. Archaeologists thousands of years later will give it a fancy name after finding them in New Mexico. To you, it's just a miracle of chipped stone, fluted down the center so it can be hafted onto a spear. Sleek, symmetrical, effective. The kind of thing you'd brag about if you had neighbors to brag to. You sit for hours, maybe days, hammering flakes off flint or chert. The sound is sharp, rhythmic. Each strike is a gamble. One wrong hit and the whole thing snaps. But when it works, you hold in your hand a weapon that can pierce the hide of a mammoth, a shard of human ingenuity sharp enough to change the fate of entire continents. Congrats! You've just invented America's first signature brand, Clovis technology. And with it, the hunt changes. You don't stalk squirrels with these. No, Clovis points are for big game, mammoths, mastodons, bison the size of trucks. The idea isn't subtle. You and your group surround the beast, jab with spears, and hope it goes down before one of you does. Efficiency, questionable. Risk, extremely high. Reward, massive. One mammoth equals weeks of meat, fat, bone, hide. Enough to carry your people through the cruelest stretch of winter. But here's the part no one likes to say out loud. You're too good at it, too relentless, too hungry. And the animals? They never stood a chance. Within a few thousand years, entire species vanish. Mammoths? Gone. Mastodons? Gone. Horses in the Americas? Extinct until Europeans bring them back. The land empties of giants. And you, sharp little ape with sharp little rocks, walk away full. Did you mean to cause an extinction? No, you just wanted dinner. But history doesn't care about intentions. It only remembers consequences. Daily life revolves around the hunt. The men shape weapons, track prey, and chase the kill. The women gather roots, berries, nuts, and teach children to not die in the meantime. Fires crackle with roasted marrow bones. Stories are told in the flicker of light. Myths about spirits, beasts, the sky above. Stories no one will write down for another 10,000 years, but which will echo in memory long after. Your camps are temporary, always on the move. You leave behind little. Ash, broken tools, butchered bones. One day, archaeologists will find them, scratch their heads, and invent names for your people. They'll call you Clovis, Folsom, Paleo-Indians, labels you never asked for. But the truth is simpler. You're just trying to keep everyone alive. The world around you is still strange. Giant cats with teeth like knives. Bears taller than you, faster than you, hungrier than you. The Ice Age hasn't finished its tantrum yet. Winters are brutal, summers short. And yet, somehow, you carve out a living with nothing but stone, bone, and fire. It's not glamorous. It's not noble. It's survival, messy and raw. The smell of blood, the crunch of bone, the endless ache of hunger waiting just beyond each meal. But for now, it works. You thrive. You spread. Your points scatter across the continent, proof that your people moved fast and wide. From the Great Plains to the deserts, from rivers to forests, Clovis tools appear like breadcrumbs across a map. And every time you chip a stone, every time you stab a beast, every time you light a fire in the freezing dark, you're laying the groundwork for everything that comes next. Not that you know it. For you, it's just another day, another hunt, another sharp edge between you and death. One morning, you notice something odd. The horizon is quiet, too quiet. The herds that once shook the ground? Gone. The shaggy mammoths that filled your dreams with meat and hides? Vanished. The great sloths that moved like living mountains? Nowhere to be seen. It didn't happen all at once. At first, there were fewer herds. Then the hunts got harder. Then the tracks went cold. And now, the world feels emptier. You don't know it, but you're living through one of the greatest extinction events since the dinosaurs. Saber-toothed cats, dire wolves, mastodons, mammoths, horses, camels, all disappearing within just a few thousand years of your arrival. Coincidence? Probably not. Sure, the climate is changing. The Ice Age is packing its bags. Temperatures are rising. Grasslands shrinking. That's part of it. But the other part? You. Your people. your clever little stones, and your very large appetites. Turns out, evolution didn't prepare megafauna for organized humans with sharp rocks and no sense of moderation. Congrats! You've just hunted North America's most iconic animals into oblivion. Do you feel bad? Not really. You're not a conservationist. You're not thinking about ecosystem balance. You're thinking about tonight's dinner. You're thinking about the fire crackling in camp, the smell of roasted fat, your children's stomachs no longer groaning with hunger. You're thinking short-term because the long-term is a luxury you can't afford. But the long-term doesn't care. It happens anyway. Without mammoths to graze the plains, landscapes change. Grass gives way to brush. Forests creep where herds once roamed. Predators vanish too, starved of prey. The world reshuffles itself, awkwardly, around the absence you created. And you? You adapt. Because that's what you do best. The big game is gone? Fine. You'll hunt smaller animals. Rabbits, deer, fish, birds, anything that moves. Your spears get lighter. Your traps get smaller. Your tools shift to match the prey that's left. The Clovis points that once felled mammoths? They fade away, replaced by new designs better suited for smaller game. Archaeologists will puzzle over that someday, wondering why the technology changed. The answer is simple. Your dinner menu shrank. But the loss is more than practical. It's spiritual too. Imagine telling your children stories of giant beasts, then realizing they'll never see one. Imagine fireside myths about creatures that no longer exist. Slowly, the memory of them becomes legend. Mammoths turn into monsters in the tales, sloths become spirits of the earth, saber-toothed cats become demons in the dark. Myths are born from extinction. The land feels lonelier without them. Hunts are less dramatic, less dangerous. No more epic struggles against towering beasts, just quiet snares, small kills, modest meals. It works, but it doesn't thrill. Survival has lost some of its theater. And yet, your people spread faster than ever, because now, with the giants gone, there's less competition. Fewer predators stalking you, more room to grow, to wander, to claim valleys and rivers as your own. You fill the gap left by extinction. You become the dominant force on the continent. Still, the emptiness lingers. The silence of vanished herds echoes in your steps. The bones of mammoths jut from the earth, reminders of a time when the world was bigger, louder, wilder. You don't know that one day, thousands of years later, people will dig up those bones and argue about what happened. Was it the climate? Was it you? Was it both? Spoiler, yes. For now, though, you just move on. Because survival doesn't wait for grief. The giants are gone. The world has shifted. And you, stubborn and small, remain. The land is yours now. Empty, waiting, fragile, and you will not waste it. For the first time, you stop walking. Not forever, of course. You'll always be on the move sooner or later. But for now, you find a spot by a river, under the shelter of trees, and you decide to stay, at least until the food runs out. This is as close to a home as you get. Forget houses with doors and windows. Your home is animal hide stretched over wooden poles, or maybe a pit dug into the earth with branches over the top. If it keeps the wind out and traps a little warmth, it counts. Inside, it smells like smoke, sweat, and unwashed bodies. Romantic? Not at all. But it's where life happens. The fire crackles in the center. Around it, people huddle close, eating, talking, sleeping. Children cling to their mothers, gnawing on scraps of bone. Elders mumble stories that stretch longer than the flames. Dogs, if you've managed to tame a few wolves, curl at the edges of camp, watching the dark. The walls are thin, the cold is constant, but this is safety. Your camp isn't permanent, but it leaves traces. Broken tools, stone flakes, ash from fires, bones from meals. Centuries later, archaeologists will stumble across these remains and declare, here was a people. They'll give names to cultures you never named yourself. They'll piece together your life from garbage and guesswork. But for you, it's simple. You live where the food is, and when the food leaves, so do you. Daylight is filled with work. The men head out to hunt, spears ready, eyes sharp. The women gather roots, berries, seeds, anything edible that doesn't bite back. Children are put to work early, learning by doing. There's no childhood as we'd think of it. No playdates, no toys, no free time. Childhood is just training for survival. And yet, there's joy in it too. Around the fire you laugh, you tell stories, you sing, you scratch patterns into bone or carve figures from wood. Life isn't just survival, it's meaning. The rhythms of day and night, hunt and hearth, hunger and feast. The camp is also where you begin to feel something new, belonging. A sense that this group of a few dozen people isn't just a group. It's a family, a tribe, something bigger than yourself. You're tied together by blood, by struggle, by the fact that if one of you fails, you all fail. Congrats. You've just invented community. Of course, it's not utopia. People argue, people fight, sometimes over food, sometimes over nothing at all. There are jealousies, rivalries, grudges that fester in the smoke-filled air, and sometimes people leave, or die, or both. But still, the camp endures. Because it has to. And slowly, patterns form. You return to certain places again and again. Good hunting grounds, safe rivers, sheltered valleys. These spots start to feel familiar. They hold memories, the ashes of old fires, the ghosts of old stories. You don't know it, but you're planting the seeds of tradition, of territory, of culture. You're no longer just wanderers in a frozen world. You're inhabitants, residents, people with places you call your own, even if only for a season. At night, as you curl under hides by the fire, you stare at the smoke drifting into the dark and wonder if the spirits are watching. You wonder if the land itself sees you. You wonder if your children will ever know something better than this, something warmer, something steadier. They will. But not yet. For now, this is your home. Thin walls, crackling fire, restless nights. A fragile bubble of life in a land that doesn't care if you exist. And in its small, smoky way, it's enough. The firelight flickers on faces and someone begins to speak. Not in the sharp, practical words of the hunt, but in something slower, heavier, a story. You listen. Because stories aren't just entertainment here, they're maps of meaning. When you live in a world that doesn't explain itself, you fill in the blanks. Thunder is a voice. The river has moods. The wind carries messages. Everything, animal, stone, storm, fire, has a spirit. Some kind, some cruel, all mysterious. Welcome to your religion. You don't have temples or priests. You have whispers around the fire, dreams that feel too real, and the gnawing sense that unseen eyes are always watching. You don't need sacred books. The land itself is scripture, and every tree, mountain, or beast is a passage you're learning to read. When the mammoth still roamed, it wasn't just food. It was power, spirit, ancestor. Killing it was dangerous not just physically, but spiritually. You thanked it. You honored it. Because if you didn't, you feared it would take revenge. Even after extinction, the stories linger. Children grow up hearing about the great beasts their parents once hunted, half believing they'll still meet one in the dark. Death isn't an ending either. It's a crossing. The body is laid down in the earth with care, sometimes sprinkled with ochre, sometimes with tools or ornaments, sometimes curled like a sleeper. You don't do this because it's funeral tradition. You do it because you can't shake the sense that the dead walk somewhere else, that they need their tools, that they might even come back. And in a way, they do. Through dreams, through stories, through the way you swear you can hear their voices in the night wind. Your world is thick with signs. A bird flying low, a strange pattern in the clouds, the way a flame bends sideways in the fire pit. All of it means something. You don't believe in coincidence. You can't afford to. Coincidence won't save your life when winter bites. But signs? Maybe. And so, slowly, you build a web of myths. Not the kind of myths with written names and pantheons. No Zeus, no Odin. Just whispers of spirits that slip between the cracks of daily life. Some helpful, some dangerous, most both. The hunter mutters a chant before throwing his spear. The gatherer hums a tune while pulling roots from the ground. You don't do it because it works. You do it because not doing it feels like asking for trouble. Congrats. You've just invented ritual. Of course, none of it is organized. Belief is scattered, fragmented, different from valley to valley, river to river. But the themes are the same. The world is alive, the world is listening, and the world demands respect. You don't have written laws, but you do have taboos. Don't take too much from one place. Don't mock the dead. Don't waste food. Don't break the quiet at night. Rules unspoken, enforced not by chiefs, but by fear. Fear of spirits, fear of curses, fear of imbalance. And here's the strange thing. It works. Fear keeps you cautious. Caution keeps you alive. You might not know the names of the gods, but you know the chill that crawls up your spine when you hear a wolf howl. You know the hush that falls when lightning cracks the sky. You know that something, somewhere, larger than you, is moving. And around the fire, you shape that something into words, into stories that carry meaning across generations. Thousands of years from now, when temples rise and scriptures are written, people will forget that faith began here, in whispers, in firelight, in the dark. But you'll know, because tonight, as you stare into the flames, you feel it. The world is alive, and it's watching. In your world, there are no machines, no metal, no wheels, no Amazon deliveries. Everything you own is either scraped off the ground, carved from bone, or wrestled from an animal that very much didn't want to die. And yet, you make it work. Let's start with fire. Fire is your god, your tool, your shield, and your comfort blanket all at once. You guard it like treasure. You don't just light fires, you keep them. A single spark is life, and losing it is disaster. Sometimes you carry embers wrapped in bark and moss as you travel, because striking a new fire isn't easy. It's more than heat. Fire cooks your meat, drives away predators, hardens wooden tools, and turns night into something you can actually survive. Without it, you're just a shivering, hairless ape waiting to be eaten. With it, you're a hairless ape with power. Congrats. Fire is your superpower. Then there's stone, sharp, stubborn stone. You know it intimately. The way flint chips when struck, the way chert splits into razor-thin flakes. You don't just bash rocks together randomly. You've learned patterns, rhythms, hours spent striking, flaking, shaping. From a lump of stone comes an edge sharper than modern steel. Knives, scrapers, spear points, all born from endless patience and a willingness to bleed a little when the edge bites your hand. And these tools don't just help you hunt, they help you stay alive after the hunt. Scraping hides into clothing, cutting tendons into cord, shaping wood into shafts. Every tool multiplies your effort, turns weakness into strength. But stone has limits. It chips, it breaks, it's heavy. So you innovate. You turn to bone. Bone is the gift that keeps on giving. After the meat is gone, after the hide is stripped, the bones remain, and you see possibility. Long bones carved into needles, perfect for stitching hides into clothing. Ribs sharpened into scrapers. Antlers whittled into spear throwers that hurl a dart farther than your arm ever could. Even fishhooks, carved delicate and fine, to snag food from the rivers. It's recycling at its purest. Waste nothing. Use everything. Because if you don't, you starve. And don't forget wood. Flexible, strong, but temporary. Wooden spears, digging sticks, frames for shelters. It rots, it burns, it breaks. But while it lasts, it's indispensable. Combined with stone and bone, it turns your fragile human body into something dangerous. Something capable. Something that can actually stand toe-to-toe with beasts far larger than you. Your toolkit looks simple to modernize. A few rocks, a few sticks, some bones and sinew. But in your hands, it's civilization in its infancy. Every tool carries memory. A knife passed down from parent to child. A spear point carried across hundreds of miles. You don't think of them as artifacts. They're just what you need to keep breathing another day. But one day, buried in the soil, they'll become clues, proof that you were here. Technology isn't flashy in your time. It's quiet, patient, unremarkable until you realize what it achieves. Each chipped flake is a small rebellion against helplessness. Each ember carried in moss is defiance against the dark. The truth is, you don't conquer the world with armies. Not yet. You conquer it with fire, stone, and bone, with the sheer stubbornness to turn scraps of the earth into tools, and those tools carry you forward, out of the cold, across the rivers, into new lands, survival, sharpened to an edge. You eat a lot. And you don't eat for pleasure. You eat because the world doesn't negotiate. Hunger is a constant companion. One misstep, one failed hunt, one spoiled route, and it reminds you who's really in charge. Spoiler alert, it isn't you. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, all the same when survival is the goal. Fresh meat if you're lucky. Dried meat if you're patient. Roots, tubers, berries, nuts, whatever the land grudgingly offers. And yes, sometimes you eat things that smell suspiciously like death. Because hunger doesn't care about your taste buds. You've learned to be thorough. The whole animal is fair game. Muscle, fat, organs, marrow, skin. Even tendons become cord, bones become tools. Nothing goes to waste. Nothing can. You've got to eat and craft and survive all at once, or your children won't. Fishing is another art. You carve hooks from bone, fashion nets from sinew, and learn the rhythms of rivers. Some days the fish practically jump into your hands. Other days, the river is stubborn. You stare into the icy water, huddled against the wind, and wonder if the salmon are mocking you. They probably are. Foraging is its own challenge. Berries ripen quickly and disappear faster. Roots hide underground, often tangled with rocks. Mushrooms can kill you if you're careless. The land is generous but merciless. A grocery store without aisles or labels. You take what you can, carry it back, and hope your haul is enough to last a few days. You quickly understand seasonal rhythms. Spring brings tender shoots and early berries. Summer brings abundance, fish, game, fruits, and seeds. Autumn is frantic, a race to stock up for winter. And winter is lean, bitter, and sometimes fatal. Every meal feels like a small victory, every empty pot a minor disaster. Hunting, gathering, and fishing aren't solitary pursuits. Everyone participates. Children are taught early, adults work relentlessly, elders guide with experience. It's a team sport, except the prize isn't a trophy. It's life itself. And sometimes, despite all your effort, the land refuses. You return with empty hands, stomachs growling louder than ever. You mutter darkly under your breath, curse the river, the trees, the wind, and maybe even the spirits. Hunger is relentless, unforgiving, and, oddly, a teacher. You learn the value of every morsel, the importance of planning, the unforgiving math of survival. Cooking is primitive, but essential. Fire roasts meat, boils roots, makes marrow digestible. Smoke preserves food for a day or two. Salt? Rare. Spices? Non-existent. You eat for function, not flavor. And somehow, after a long day, you savor the little warmth and fullness that comes with a shared meal. And here's the irony. The land gives you enough if you respect it. Respect it, and it feeds you. Take too much, or disrespect it, and it takes back. That balance is delicate. One misstep, one season of scarcity, and it reminds you why your ancestors never got comfortable. Water is another miracle. Rivers, lakes, streams, clear, cold, essential. You don't drink like it's a convenience. You drink like it's life or death. And yes, sometimes it's too cold. Sometimes it's filled with creatures that want to bite your hand. Still, you drink. You must. Every meal carries memory. The taste of fresh fish smoked over fire. The warmth of a shared root stew. The crunch of dried meat. Each bite is a story. Each flavor a connection to the land, the animals, the seasons. And in the end, The lesson is simple. You are part of this land, but only barely. You eat it, survive on it, and respect it just enough to keep it giving. Fail, and it stops. Simple, brutal, real. Life here is never easy, but at least you're fed. You move along rivers. You don't think of them as highways. You just know they carry water, fish, and danger. But over time, you start to notice patterns. Currents that lead to food. Valleys that shelter from wind. Passable mountain passes. Slowly, without realizing it, you begin to map the continent in your head. Rivers are your lifelines. The mighty Mississippi, the Missouri, the Colorado. They don't have names yet, but you follow them like threads through a vast chaotic tapestry. Fish in the water, animals drinking at the banks, fertile land for roots and berries. You learn which bends hide the best game, which stretches are too deep or fast. The river becomes part of your survival strategy, not just a place to drink. Trails form too, but less obviously. Repeated footsteps across plains, worn paths through forests, beaten routes over hills. You follow animal tracks, which also follow water. Slowly, your trails converge with theirs, sometimes parallel, sometimes intersecting. You move in waves, humans, prey, predators, all tracing patterns across the land. You learn to read the landscape. Stones tell stories. Fallen trees mark directions. The sun and stars are your compass. No maps, no GPS, no street signs. Just careful observation. Miss a detail and you risk getting lost in the wilderness. And being lost in this world isn't just inconvenient, it's dangerous. Hypothermia, hunger, predators. Pick your poison. Congrats. You're an early cartographer, whether you realize it or not. Every river, every valley, every mountain pass you traverse becomes part of an invisible map that your descendants will follow for thousands of years. Travel isn't leisurely, it's measured in survival. Each mile walked or paddled is a calculation. Food stores, weather, season, fatigue. You don't carry much. What you have must last. Tools, hides, fire-starting materials. Everything else is left behind. Moving light keeps you alive. Moving heavy gets you eaten or freezes you to death. And yet, you move. Always. Because stillness is death. Along these waterways you meet other groups. Sometimes you trade, sometimes you fight. Sometimes you ignore each other entirely. Connections are fragile and fleeting, but essential. Information passes along these routes, where food is plentiful, where danger lurks, what the seasons will bring. You become part of a network, invisible, unrecorded, but very real. The land itself shapes you as much as you shape it. Narrow passes funnel movement. Rapids test skill. Dense forests hide prey and predators alike. You adapt. Canoes carved from single logs appear, crude but functional. Cord from sinew allows bundles to be carried. Spears and arrows travel faster. The human body, in its relentless determination, becomes a tool tuned to the landscape. Even the mountains don't stop you. You learn to skirt them, to follow valleys and ridges, to treat elevation as both obstacle and guide. No peaks are impassable. Only unprepared humans are. You become nimble, resourceful, wary, and relentless. And when winter arrives, rivers freeze, paths vanish, and movement becomes even more dangerous. Yet you still travel, for hunting grounds, for safer shelter, for life. You learn patience, you learn timing, you learn that the land has its own rhythms, and survival means learning them or dying. Thousands of years later, humans will build roads along these same paths. Cities will rise near the same rivers you paddled. Highways will replace trails. But you, your feet, your canoes, your careful observation, were the first to carve routes through this vast, indifferent continent. For now, though, you don't know that. You just follow the water, step by step, horizon to horizon, always moving, always alive, always learning. You wake to the cold, not politely cold, like an air-conditioned room, but bone-deep, teeth-chattering. If you don't move, you'll freeze, cold. And there's no heating system to blame, just the world, indifferent and cruel. Your survival depends on improvisation. Hides, fur, sinew, your first wardrobe. Mammoth hides when available, deer or bison otherwise. You scrape, tan, stitch, and wrap yourself in layers. Every garment is functional, every stitch a defense against death. Fashion? Forget it. Elegance? Non-existent. Warmth is the only priority. Sewing isn't easy. Needles come from bone. Thread comes from sinew. Hands bleed. Fingers are numb. Mistakes are costly. One ripped seam in the middle of a blizzard could be fatal. But you persist. Because without clothing, you don't just feel cold, you die cold. And clothing is more than protection, it tells stories. Each hide carries marks, scratches, scars. Some are practical, patterns of stitching for durability. Others are ceremonial, ochre, impressions, small decorations. You mark your identity subtly, knowing your tribe, your family, your role. And yes, somewhere deep down, it feels like the first whispers of style, even if survival drives it more than vanity. Shelter is your second defense. Fires alone aren't enough. Wind, rain, snow, all indifferent to human suffering, demand walls. Poles, branches, hides, temporary huts, pit shelters, lean-tos. You build for function, not comfort. Drafts creep in, holes appear, rain leaks, but you repair, adapt, survive. Shelters aren't permanent, they're portable, ephemeral. Tomorrow the food may run out, the river may flood, the forest may no longer provide. So you pack what you can, leave the rest, and move on. Your home is a temporary bubble against an unrelenting wilderness. Waterproofing? Primitive. But you learn to overlap hides, layer bark, dig drainage. A little ingenuity goes a long way. And if a storm hits, you huddle around the fire, listening to the wind howl through gaps, muttering darkly, hoping your roof doesn't collapse on you. Spoiler alert, sometimes it does. Clothing and shelter also define social roles. Men, women, and elders contribute differently. Some hunt, some tan hides, some gather building materials, some teach the young. The survival of the group depends on this division of labor. Chaotic, exhausting, but effective. And yet, despite the harshness, there's rhythm. Seasons dictate clothing changes. Hide thickness increases for winter, lightens for summer. Shelters are dismantled and rebuilt with the cycle of migration. The land sets the schedule, and you obey. Safety is another factor. Shelter protects against predators, bears, wolves, big cats. Clothing insulates against frostbite. Together, they create a fragile barrier between life and death. Every stitch, every pole, every fire is a tiny rebellion against mortality. Night is the real test. You huddle under hides, fire flickering, listening to distant howls, the crunch of snow, the branches snapping. Sleep is uneasy. Dreams are vivid. Danger is constant. But the warmth of your shelter, the layers of hides, the proximity of your tribe, it's enough to survive another night. And through this constant struggle, you learn patience, resilience, and ingenuity. Your ancestors didn't pass down recipes for survival in books. They passed it down through necessity. Every garment, every hut, every repaired seam carries the weight of experience, adaptation, and stubborn human will. Congrats. You're not just surviving. You're mastering the basics of life in a harsh land. Warmth, shelter, protection. Small victories that make the difference between life and death. And while the world outside remains indifferent, at least inside your fragile hide-and-branch fortress, you have a semblance of control, just enough to plan tomorrow.
You are never truly alone, not in the wilderness, not in this unforgiving land. Your survival depends on the people around you, your family, your tribe, your group. The concept of society isn't abstract, it's visceral, it's life or death. Families form the core, not the nuclear family as modern humans imagine, but extended networks of kin. Children, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, all intertwined, all necessary. Each member contributes in ways that matter. Every skill, every effort, every failure or success echoes across the group. You watch children learn by imitation. They aren't allowed luxury or leisure. Play is practice. Running through the forest, stalking small game, mimicking adult actions, all preparation for survival. And you, like everyone else, are constantly aware that the weak, the careless, or the slow may not survive. Harsh, yes, but reality doesn't care about sentiment. Roles are defined early. Men usually hunt. Women gather, tan hides, prepare food, care for the young. Elders pass wisdom, often in the form of stories. These stories carry memory, tradition, warning, and instruction. There are no written manuals, only spoken lessons repeated by firelight from generation to generation. Congrats. Oral tradition is your first school system, and it works. Cooperation is mandatory. A successful hunt requires coordination. Some drive the herd, others flank, others wait with spears ready. Gatherers share information about edible plants, water sources, or predator activity. Even small mistakes can have cascading effects. One misstep in planning, one missed warning, and lives are lost. But life is also social beyond work. Communities celebrate together. They mourn together. They share warmth around fires. Music, song, chanting, and storytelling bind people in ways that extend beyond the immediate need for survival. Even in this harsh world, there's laughter, mischief, and moments of quiet tenderness. Conflict exists, of course. Space is limited, food is scarce, tempers flare. Disputes are settled with words when possible, with strength if necessary. Tribal hierarchies aren't formal, but they exist. Leadership emerges naturally based on skill, wisdom, and the ability to keep people alive. Respect is earned, not granted. Trade also begins to emerge. Groups exchange resources, stone for wood, animal skins for tools, information for food. Trade routes follow rivers, mountain passes, and valleys, the same pathways that have guided human footsteps for generations. Even in a world of scarcity, you find the beginnings of interconnection, negotiation, and cooperation. And then there's belief. Religion, myth, and ritual reinforce societal norms. Ceremonies mark hunting success, seasonal shifts, or the passing of an elder. The spiritual world is intertwined with social structure. Respect for spirits often doubles as respect for fellow humans and the environment. The sacred and the practical are inseparable. You also notice subtle but important patterns. Sharing isn't optional, hoarding is dangerous, and leadership without competence quickly fails. Survival pressures sculpt your society into a flexible, efficient, and cooperative network. Not perfect, not fair, but effective. Children learn quickly. Observation and imitation are as important as direct instruction. Skills, taboos, and rituals embed themselves in young minds. By adolescence, you're competent enough to contribute meaningfully to hunting, foraging, or building shelters. Mistakes are costly, but necessary. Failure teaches faster than success ever could. And as the generations pass, these groups spread farther. Tribes split and migrate, carrying with them their knowledge, customs, and tools. Patterns of society diffuse across the land, laying the foundation for the diversity of cultures that will someday define the Americas. Your survival isn't just about staying alive today. It's about ensuring that the next child, the next generation, can carry the torch, literally and figuratively. That fire you guard, the tools you shape, the stories you tell, they are all investments in a fragile, uncertain future. Life is harsh. Life is short. Life is unforgiving. But within your small community, there is warmth, guidance, and continuity. You are not merely surviving alone in the wilderness. You are living together, learning together, building the first threads of society in a vast, indifferent land. And somehow, despite everything, it works. You wake before dawn, and the wind whispers through the trees. You grunt, gesture, point, trying to convey meaning without losing time or life. Your words are sharp and functional, born of necessity. You do not speak to entertain. You speak to survive.
Language emerges slowly, organically. Short words first. Names for water, fire, animals, seasons. Then actions. Run, hide, strike, gather. Slowly, meaning accumulates. You use tone, repetition, and gesture to emphasize urgency. A mispronounced warning can get someone eaten. Accuracy is life. Congrats. You've just invented communication. But language is more than survival. It's memory. You give names to landmarks, rivers, and hills. You identify dangerous plants, fertile soils, and good hunting grounds. Each word is a mental map encoded into speech. Misremember a name, and the consequences could be fatal. The first words aren't pretty. They're precise, necessary, practical. Over time, your vocabulary expands. You begin to describe abstract ideas. The fire that warms is also sacred. The river that feeds is also a guide. The hunt is survival but also ritual. Your words carry layers of meaning. One simple term can encapsulate food, danger, and respect all at once. Efficiency is everything. Gestures remain crucial. Pointing, miming, signaling across distances, these are your punctuation. Without them, words lose power. A hunter across a clearing must communicate silently with precision. One wrong movement, one missed cue, and the deer, or the predator, escapes. Children pick up language fast. They mimic adults before they even understand grammar. Their babbling evolves into functional speech with incredible speed. You marvel at how quickly these young humans internalize survival-critical communication. It's instinct and necessity combined. Language also carries story. Tales of hunts, disasters, spirits, and ancestors are encoded in words and rhythm. You repeat them nightly, around firelight, passing knowledge in patterns easier to remember than facts alone. By speaking, you ensure continuity. Without your words, everything you know dies with you. You develop codes of speech. Certain sounds, tones, or repetitions signal alarm, success, or direction. A subtle grunt might mean danger, while a loud shout signifies kill. These are your early protocols, your survival shorthand. Modern humans will one day analyze these and call them proto-languages. But for you, they are simply the way to live another day. Language also shapes social hierarchy. Leaders, elders, and skilled hunters command attention not just by strength but by speech. Persuasion, instruction, and ritual rely on clarity of words. Someone who speaks poorly or misleadingly risks the group's survival. Respect grows around competence in language as much as in physical skill. And humor? It exists, faintly. Dark humor, irony born of hardship. You might whisper a joke about a clumsy hunter, or exaggerate a near-death story to make the children laugh. The laughter is cautious, fleeting, but real. Even in survival, humans find the need to mock themselves. Language evolves as the groups disperse. Words shift, sounds change. Neighboring tribes begin to develop their own dialects. Misunderstandings occur. Communication across distances becomes challenging, but the drive to share knowledge, teach survival skills, and preserve culture keeps language alive. Congrats again. With words, you've not only survived, you've created culture. Knowledge is no longer solely physical. It lives in the air, in the mouth, in the memory of those who speak. And someday, millennia later, linguists will puzzle over the roots of these first words. They'll theorize, reconstruct, and debate. They'll never capture the full nuance of urgency, fear, reverence, and dark humor encoded in your original speech. But for you, it doesn't matter. You only need words that work, words that save lives, words that connect your people across an unforgiving land. Because without words, you are alone. With them, you are a society, a family, a tribe, and just maybe, enough to survive the harshest world you've ever known. You wake to the sound of wind rattling branches, the distant cry of a predator, and the ever-present tug of hunger. The land that once provided enough is changing. Animals vanish. Rivers dry. The forest grows dense and unfamiliar. You pack your few belongings, bundle your fire embers, and prepare to move again. Migration is survival, and survival is movement. Movement defines your life. You don't migrate for adventure, you migrate because the earth demands it. Seasons shift, food sources dwindle, predators stalk, and resources concentrate in pockets. Your group becomes a living organism, stretching and contracting across the continent, flowing along rivers, scaling passes, following herds. Congrats, you're part of the first great human migration across the Americas. Routes are dictated by necessity, coastal paths offer fish and shellfish, river valleys provide fresh water and game. Plains are easier to traverse but expose you to the wind and predators. Mountains slow progress but hide fertile nooks. You learn to read landscapes for opportunity and risk. Every step is calculated, instinctive, a mix of courage and desperation. You move in waves, groups split and reunite. Scouts travel ahead to find food. Carriers transport children, tools, and fire. Elders share wisdom along the way, which berries are safe, which rapids are treacherous, which lands are sacred. Knowledge spreads with motion, and knowledge is survival. Migration is grueling. You walk for days, sometimes weeks, through cold, rain, mud, snow. Legs ache, blisters form, hunger gnaws. Children whine, elders slow, predators watch from the shadows. Every night, fire must be rebuilt. Every day, vigilance is absolute. Rest is a privilege. Mistakes are costly. Yet there's rhythm. You follow the sun, the stars, and the subtle changes in flora and fauna. You sense the seasonal pulse, when rivers swell, when berries ripen, when deer congregate. Every instinct is honed by countless generations of trial and error. You are both predator and prey, observer and participant, a tiny but clever creature adapting constantly. Trade and contact accompany movement. Occasionally your path intersects with another group. Goods, tools, and information exchange hands. Stories and warnings spread, language diversifies. Boundaries form, sometimes respected, sometimes contested. Movement becomes culture, and culture is carried across landscapes. Animals, too, shape migration. Herds provide sustenance, but also guide routes. Follow the mammoths, bison, or caribou, and survival chances rise. Ignore them, and starvation becomes a very real possibility. Movement is a dialogue with the living world, a constant negotiation between need and opportunity. And yet, you move not just for survival, but for future security. You scout lands, find fertile valleys, discover water sources. Some sites are revisited seasonally, others are abandoned. Memory becomes a map. Experience becomes strategy. Your descendants will thank you, not today, not tomorrow, but centuries later. Migration leaves marks. Footpaths carve the earth. Campsites accumulate artifacts, flint chips, bones, fire pits. Future humans will stumble across these traces and try to reconstruct your journeys. They will give them names, theories, cultures. But for you, they are simply part of life, markers of survival, memory, and movement. And through it all, you adapt. Clothing changes with the climate. Tools are refined. Diets shift. Social structures evolve to handle mobility and scarcity. Each migration is a lesson. What works? What fails? What can be improved? Trial and error is constant, unforgiving, essential. Migration is dangerous, exhausting, and relentless. But it's also liberating. You witness landscapes humans have never seen, rivers wide enough to daunt your mind, forests thick with predators, mountains so tall they pierce the sky. Every step forward is a triumph against nature itself, and you continue, always forward. Because stillness is death, and movement is the only promise of survival. Across valleys, rivers, and mountains, you carry fire, knowledge, and hope. Each journey strengthens your people, spreads your culture, and imprints humanity across a vast, wild continent. You crouch low in the brush, heart hammering, breath shallow. The forest around you is alive with sound, the snap of twigs under unseen feet, the rustle of leaves, the occasional distant roar or grunt. Everything is either food or threat. There is no in-between. Hunting is survival. Forget sport. Forget trophies. Forget Instagram likes. This is life or death, day after day. You must be clever, patient, and ruthless. The weak do not last. Your first tools are simple: spears, stone-tipped arrows, and a keen understanding of animal behavior. You study the tracks, droppings, and habits of your prey. You note the wind direction, the time of day, the migration patterns. You learn to anticipate, to plan, to strike at the precise moment. Precision saves calories, energy, and lives. Animals are more than meat. They are fiber, bone, sinew, and fat. A single bison can provide food, clothing, and tools for days or weeks. Killing it requires coordination. Hunts are group efforts. One drives, another flanks, another waits in ambush. Mistakes are fatal. You do not just hunt for survival, you hunt for the survival of the tribe. Congrats. You are not just a predator, you are a strategist. Tracking is an art. You follow prints across frozen ground, through mud, along rivers. You interpret broken branches, bent grass, and scattered droppings. Each clue tells a story. Where the herd went, how many there are, which animals are weak or sick. Understanding these signs is the difference between success and starvation. Ambushes are common. You choose spots where terrain favors you, narrow passes, river crossings, or slopes where your prey is slowed. Camouflage comes naturally. Mud, leaves, and shadows conceal you. Patience is mandatory. Sometimes you wait hours, shivering, silent, hoping the wind and animals cooperate. Sometimes you hunt in extreme conditions. Snowdrifts, storms, or sweltering heat are obstacles. Each presents its own challenges. Tracks vanish under snow, rivers flood, animals behave unpredictably. Adaptation becomes instinct. You adjust your timing, tools, and routes based on subtle changes in the environment. Fire is sometimes a hunting aid. Smoke drives animals toward traps. Burned clearings expose prey. It's dangerous, unpredictable, and exhausting, but effective when used wisely. Hunting is also dangerous. Predators often contest kills. Bears, wolves, and large cats can turn a successful hunt into a deadly encounter. You respect them, fear them, and sometimes, with careful strategy, avoid them. Other times, you do not survive the lesson. You also learn to coordinate with tools. The spear thrower, or atlatl, extends your reach. Bow and arrow arrive later, but even primitive versions allow distance and safety. Knives and scrapers finish what spears start. Every innovation is designed to reduce risk, save energy, and increase yield. Hunting isn't just physical, it's psychological. You observe, predict, and manipulate. You deceive, outwit, and anticipate. Animals may be stronger, faster, or larger, but you are clever. You exploit weaknesses, patience, and knowledge. Intelligence becomes the ultimate weapon. And when the hunt is successful, the victory is shared. Meat is divided. Bones, hides, sinew, and fat are processed for tools, clothing, and shelter. The fire crackles, stories are told, and the group survives another week. The ritual of preparation, consumption, and gratitude becomes almost sacred. Through hunting, you understand the land intimately, its rhythms, its hazards, its gifts. Every hunt teaches lessons about patience, strategy, cooperation, and respect. You are a predator, a tactician, a member of a complex ecosystem where every decision has consequences. And yet, every failed hunt is a reminder. Survival is not guaranteed. The land is indifferent, predators are cunning, and hunger is persistent. Every successful kill is hard-won, celebrated, and fleeting. You hunt not for glory, you hunt because life insists. You wake with the wind at your back, listening to the birds and the distant rustle of small mammals. You are not hunting today. Instead, you move through the landscape, hands brushing over bushes, roots, and grasses. Gathering is just as essential as hunting, maybe even more subtle, more patient, and occasionally more rewarding. Gathering isn't random. You know the seasons intimately. Spring offers tender shoots, early berries, and sprouts. Summer delivers fruits, nuts, and seeds. Autumn provides storage roots, dried berries, and the final hunt spoils. Winter is lean, but you can dig buried tubers or crack nuts left from previous months. Each plant, each root, each berry has a story. Some are edible, some medicinal, some deadly. Mistakes can kill you faster than a missed spear. Congrats. You are not just a forager. You are a botanist, pharmacist, and survivalist all at once. Tools help. Digging sticks, baskets woven from reeds, and even simple stone knives turn foraging into efficient collection. You carry only what you can use, overcollect, and the burden slows you. Undercollect, and the cold or hunger punishes. Balance is key. Every decision carries consequences. You observe patterns. Where do nuts fall first? Which roots sprout earliest? Which berries ripen together? Over years, you start to manipulate your environment subtly. You scatter seeds. You burn patches of brush to encourage new growth. You protect preferred trees or plants. The line between wild and cultivated begins to blur. Agriculture, in its earliest form, is nothing like what people imagine thousands of years later. There are no plows, no irrigation canals, just patient humans noticing that some seeds grow better when deliberately placed. You experiment. Some succeed, some fail. Failure is costly, but instructive. Gathering also teaches foresight. You collect more than you need today, storing nuts in pits, drying berries, and preserving roots. Winter is unforgiving. These small acts of planning mean survival when the world outside is cold, white, or barren. Storage becomes a silent game of strategy, weighing what to eat, what to save, what to risk losing. You also share knowledge. Children are taught which plants are safe, which roots must be cooked, which berries can induce hallucinations or worse. Observation is key. The same plant may behave differently across regions or seasons. Memory and careful note-taking, in the form of repetition and oral instruction, become essential. Gathering builds community. Groups spread out across different territories to maximize yields, then reunite to combine resources. Cooperation ensures that no one starves, that food is distributed, and that knowledge travels with the group. You learn that survival is rarely an individual effort. It is social, collaborative, and sometimes political. And with repeated success, a subtle transformation occurs. Instead of merely taking from the land, you start to shape it. You clear patches for preferred plants, leave fertile soil undisturbed, and even begin rudimentary planting. You are laying the groundwork for what will one day be called agriculture, the slow, persistent attempt to bend the environment to human needs. Every gathered nut, root, or berry carries meaning. Some are eaten immediately. Some are stored for lean times. Some are given as gifts or used in rituals. Food is not just survival. It is culture, communication, and identity. Yet danger is never far. Poisonous plants, animal encounters, and harsh weather remain constant threats. Gathering requires vigilance, patience, and knowledge passed through generations. One misstep can undo all your careful preparation. In the end, you are not merely surviving on what the land provides. You are learning to work with it, to anticipate its gifts and punishments, and to subtly influence its yield. You are both hunter and gardener, predator and cultivator, constantly adapting. Congrats! You are shaping the first steps towards sedentary life, civilization, and the vast agricultural networks that will later define entire regions. All this, beginning with seeds scattered by hands that once merely scavenged. You sit in the shadow of a cave wall, fire flickering across rough stone. Your fingers are smudged with ochre, charcoal, and clay. In front of you, the wall is blank, empty, and utterly silent. But soon, it will speak. Not in words, not in survival instructions, but in images, symbols, and emotion. Art begins quietly, almost imperceptibly. A scratch in stone, a smudge of color, a carefully placed footprint. At first, it may seem frivolous, unnecessary, but then you realize it is more than decoration. It is memory, communication, ritual, and identity all at once. Congrats. You have just touched the first stirrings of creativity. Your earliest works depict what you know intimately: animals, hunting scenes, and daily life. Mammoths, bison, deer, creatures that sustain you, terrify you, and define your world. You exaggerate certain features: the horns, the claws, the speed. You capture not only their appearance, but their essence, their danger, their power. Every line is careful, deliberate, meaningful. Color is rare and precious. Red ochre from iron-rich clay, black charcoal from burned wood, white from crushed bones or chalk. Each pigment is harvested, prepared, and applied with purpose. The act of creating is as much labor as a hunt: patience, skill, and planning are required. A single mistake can ruin a scene that took hours or days. Art is also symbolic. Some marks are protective, meant to ensure a successful hunt. Others are ceremonial, honoring ancestors, spirits, or the forces that govern your world. Shapes and patterns carry meaning, even if only you or your group fully understand them. You leave clues for the future, messages encoded in pigment and stone. Music and sound accompany art. You may drum on hollowed logs or blow through reeds, producing rhythms that echo in caves. Singing, chanting, or humming becomes part of ritual, part of storytelling, part of community life. Your creativity is not just visual, it's auditory, tactile, and performative. Children watch, imitate, and eventually contribute. They smear, scratch, and paint. Through repetition, they learn technique, meaning, and social rules. Art becomes a vessel of knowledge. It is practice, play, and education intertwined. Art also strengthens social bonds. Sharing techniques, trading pigments, and collaborating on larger works reinforce cooperation and hierarchy. Elders guide, peers imitate, and children absorb the collective wisdom of their group. Every mural, carving, or sculpture becomes a communal achievement. And yes, there is dark humor in early art too. Caricatures of rivals, exaggerated hunting scenes, or playful marks on walls hint at irony, jest, and commentary. Even in a world defined by survival, humans find the need to express, mock, and reflect. Creativity is as necessary to the spirit as food is to the body. Art preserves memory. Each image is a record of people, animals, seasons, victories, defeats. Millennia later, someone will stumble across your cave, marvel at the figures, and try to interpret the meaning. But for you, these images are immediate, alive, and practical. They encode knowledge, emotion, and survival strategies simultaneously. Patterns emerge. Geometric shapes, spirals, handprints, dots, each carries layered significance. Some may mark territory, others honor events. Some are simply expressions of aesthetic intuition. Every mark is deliberate, even when it appears spontaneous. Art transforms the mundane into the sacred. Hunting, gathering, fire, and shelter all exist in a functional world. But art elevates, reflects, and humanizes. It is a bridge between necessity and imagination, between survival and expression. And as you finish a mural, step back and watch the firelight dance across your work. You understand something profound. Survival alone does not define humanity. Creativity does. Expression is not optional, it is essential. Through paint, carving, song, and ritual, you assert your presence in the world. You leave traces of thought, emotion, and vision that will echo long after your body returns to dust. And in doing so, you claim a small, immortal corner of a vast, indifferent continent. You wake to the rustle of leaves, the cry of a distant bird, the scent of damp earth. Everything around you has meaning. Every mountain, river, and tree carries a story. The wind whispers, the fire flickers, and you feel the presence of forces beyond comprehension. Life is survival, yes, but it is also reverence. Spirituality begins quietly, in observation. You notice patterns. The sun rises, the moon waxes and wanes, the seasons shift, animals migrate. Some events are predictable, others are frighteningly random. Storms, accidents, disease. To understand, you assign meaning. You sense unseen forces, spirits, and entities shaping the world. You name them, honor them, and fear them. Congrats. You are among the first humans to glimpse the sacred. Rituals emerge naturally, fire ceremonies to ensure hunting success, offerings to water spirits to bless the river, songs to honor ancestors, dance to summon rain. The rituals are functional and symbolic, reinforcing both survival and social cohesion. One misstep, a poorly performed ritual, an insulted spirit, could be blamed for a failed hunt or illness. Fear and respect intertwine. Shamans or spiritual leaders appear. Elders with knowledge of plants, animals, weather, and dreams guide the group. They interpret signs in the sky, tracks in the mud, and visions in the night. Their words carry authority, because survival often depends on following them. Wisdom and spirituality are inseparable. You begin to see duality in all things. Animals are both sustenance and spirit. Rivers both give life and threaten with floods. Mountains both shelter and challenge. Nothing is simple. You respect the balance. You learn that taking from the land requires acknowledgement, offering, and care. Disrespect invites consequences. Symbols are everywhere. Carvings on rocks, markings on trees, ochre patterns in caves. Some are protective, some educational, some sacred. They convey messages that words alone cannot. Each symbol connects the physical and spiritual, the known and unknown, life and death. And yes, humor and irony exist even here. You whisper jokes about a clumsy spirit or a mischievous animal god. The sacred does not always demand solemnity. It often blends fear, respect, and absurdity. Humans have always found relief in laughter, even under the shadow of the divine. Community rituals strengthen bonds. Gatherings around fire or sacred sites remind everyone of their place, their responsibilities, and their interdependence. Survival is not just physical, it is social and spiritual. Cooperation is reinforced by shared belief, shared awe, and shared fear. Dreams are significant. You interpret visions, omens, and premonitions. Animals in dreams might indicate future hunting success. Storms in dreams may warn of actual weather changes. Dreams are both personal and communal, guiding decisions, shaping behavior, and maintaining group cohesion. Life, death, and the afterlife are intertwined. Burials, grave goods, and ceremonial practices suggest belief in a continuation beyond the visible world. You honor those who came before, knowing that your existence is a thread in a much larger tapestry. The dead are remembered, feared, and revered. Nature itself is your temple. Every sunrise, every rainfall, every migrating herd is a reminder of forces larger than you. You learn humility in the forest, respect on the riverbank, and awe on mountain ridges. These experiences shape ethics, social norms, and cultural continuity. Spirituality is also practical. It regulates behavior, reinforces social order, and guides decisions. Fear of spirits, reverence for sacred animals, and respect for ritual boundaries maintain balance within the group. Religion and survival are inseparable, one strengthens the other. And so, day after day, ritual after ritual, you navigate an indifferent land with the guidance of unseen forces. You hunt, gather, create, and survive. But you also honor, imagine, and reflect. Your spirituality is not optional. It is a compass, a social framework, and a shield against despair. In the vast, untamed Americas, you are never truly alone. Spirits, ancestors, and unseen forces surround you. They shape your choices, guide your hands, and remind you that life is precious, fleeting, and profoundly interconnected. You wake to the scent of smoke and the chatter of your group. Today is not a day of hunting or gathering. Today is a day of movement, not across forests or rivers, but toward other people. Trade, interaction, exchange, a lifeline as vital as fire or food. Trade begins quietly. One group notices a stone type, a shell, or a tool that another group has. It is rare, useful, or beautiful. You barter. A handful of seeds for a flint blade. A fur-skin for obsidian. The value is situational, dictated by scarcity, need, and utility. Nothing is trivial. Congrats. You are part of the first economic network in the Americas. Trade is also a conduit for knowledge. With each exchange, you learn about distant lands, animal migrations, edible plants, and survival strategies. A story travels with an object. A tool carries wisdom about construction, hunting, or artistry. Trade becomes more than barter. It is education, diplomacy, and cultural transmission. Routes are chosen carefully. Rivers, valleys, and passes guide travelers. Scouts map terrain. Encounters with other groups are deliberate, cautious. Misreading intent can be fatal. Trade requires negotiation, diplomacy, and sometimes subtle intimidation. Violence is a risk, but cooperation is often more profitable. Goods vary in importance. Some are practical, tools, hides, food, and pigments. Others are symbolic, shells, beads, or carved ornaments. Their value is cultural, ceremonial, or aesthetic. You learn to distinguish utility from prestige, need from desire. And sometimes you acquire something simply because it sparks wonder. Interaction strengthens alliances. Occasional meetings between groups reinforce bonds, reduce conflict, and establish mutual aid. Shared knowledge about predators, weather, and resources enhances survival. These networks are fragile but powerful. Survival depends as much on relationships as on hunting skill. Trade also introduces novelty. New techniques, tools, and ideas travel faster than humans alone could. A method of constructing a spear, a style of weaving, or a ritual song spreads hundreds of miles over generations. Cultural diffusion shapes societies long before permanent settlements emerge. Conflict is inevitable. Disputes over territory, resources, or protocol sometimes escalate. Negotiation skills, force, or strategic withdrawal become part of your repertoire. Groups that master diplomacy thrive. Those that rely solely on aggression often fail. Survival favors flexibility. Trade routes double as migration guides. Seasonal movement along rivers or across valleys brings resources and encounters that sustain your group through harsh periods. Knowledge of these paths is invaluable. Each generation passes down routes, contacts, and strategies. Memory becomes a map, verbal instruction becomes navigation, and trust becomes currency. Objects exchanged often carry ritual significance. A shell necklace may be a token of peace, a carved stone a charm for hunting. The act of trade is sometimes ceremonial. Offerings, ritual greetings, and shared meals accompany the exchange. Practicality and spirituality intertwine seamlessly. Children observe and participate. They learn negotiation, social cues, and observation. They understand value, scarcity, and consequence. Trade becomes not just a survival tool but a training ground for complex social behavior. These lessons are vital for the continuity and resilience of the group, and humor always sneaks in. You might exaggerate the size of a fish you traded for, joke about the clumsiness of a trading partner, or mock a rival group's eccentricities. Even in networks of necessity, humans find relief in laughter, irony, and play. Through trade and interaction, you shape a web of connections across the land. Knowledge, goods, and culture flow. Survival is not isolated, it is relational. The first Americans are not solitary wanderers. They are nodes in a continent-wide network of exchange, adaptation, and subtle negotiation. And as your group returns from an exchange, laden with tools, pigments, and stories, you realize survival is about more than fire, food, or shelter. It is about understanding others, exchanging knowledge, and navigating the delicate balance of cooperation and competition. Through trade, you extend your reach, your influence, and your understanding, planting the seeds for civilizations yet to come. And in doing so, you leave traces of connection that will echo across generations, long before cities, governments, or written records exist. You wake to the sound of a stone striking another, sparks flying, the air filled with dust and anticipation. Tools, technology, they are your first weapons, your first shelters, your first extensions of mind and muscle. Without them, survival is brutal. With them, you begin to bend the world to your will. Tools start simply: a sharpened stick, a flake of flint, a scraped bone, nothing fancy. But even these rudimentary items transform your life. A sharp edge cuts meat, carves wood, or scrapes hides. A pointed stick digs roots, pries insects, or defends against predators. Each tool multiplies your capability, amplifying your body and your mind. Congrats! You are shaping your environment as much as it shapes you. Stone tools evolve first. Flint, obsidian, and chert are prized for their sharpness and durability. You learn to chip carefully, strike precisely, and create edges that can last. Each blade is a miniature masterpiece of function and survival. A single well-made tool can feed, clothe, and protect your entire group. But tools are more than utility, they carry identity and skill. The quality of your flint knife signals expertise. The design of a spear shows innovation. Your craftsmanship earns respect, authority, and influence. A master toolmaker is as vital to survival as a master hunter. Other technologies emerge from observation and necessity. Cordage for nets, baskets for gathering, bone needles for sewing hides, wooden frames for shelters. Each invention is a response to a problem. You notice the limitations of your body and invent ways to compensate, extend, and enhance. Creativity is practical here, not optional. Fire is the earliest and most transformative technology. You cultivate it, carry it, protect it, and use it for warmth, cooking, and protection. Fire extends the day, kills pathogens, and softens hides. It allows you to cook roots and tubers that would otherwise poison you. Fire, more than any stone tool, defines the boundary between mere survival and mastery of the environment. Watercraft appear in some regions: dugout canoes, rafts, simple floats. They expand the range of your people, enabling travel, trade, and hunting in previously inaccessible areas. Your ability to cross rivers or lakes transforms the landscape into a network of opportunities instead of barriers. Technology is also adaptive. Tools are shaped for climate and terrain. Bone awls for sewing hides in cold regions, lightweight spears for forest hunting, stone axes for clearing land. Innovation responds to necessity, geography, and experimentation. Failures are common: broken blades, snapped spears, collapsed shelters. But each failure teaches a lesson. And yes, there's room for play and artistry. Some tools are decorated with carvings or markings. Others are made unusually for prestige or ceremony. Even in a survival-focused world, humans find satisfaction, pride, and identity in the objects they create. Function and beauty are intertwined. Teaching technology is vital. Skills are passed from elder to child, apprentice to novice. Mistakes in flint knapping, fire making, or weaving can cost a life, so precision and attention are non-negotiable. Observation, imitation, and practice are your first schools. Tools change not only survival, but social organization. They enable longer journeys, coordinated hunts, and resource management. They amplify communication and trade. Your innovations ripple outward, influencing neighboring groups, establishing connections, and fostering cultural diffusion. And of course, humor survives even here. You might carve a silly face on a tool, tease a novice for repeated failure, or exaggerate the size of a fish cut with a new knife. Even mastery is accompanied by irony and levity. Through tools and technology, you transform from passive inhabitant to active participant in the world. Rocks, wood, and bone become extensions of mind and muscle. Survival becomes innovation, necessity becomes creativity, and life itself begins to expand beyond the limits of your body. Congrats. Every tool you make, sharpen, and carry shapes not just your day-to-day survival, but the trajectory of human history. You are no longer merely responding to the world, you are remaking it. You wake to the biting wind, your breath forming clouds in the air. Your skin is exposed, raw, and vulnerable. The land is indifferent. Snow drifts, rain falls, or the sun blisters. Survival depends on layers, coverings, and refuges. Clothing and shelter are not vanity, they are lifelines. Early clothing is simple, functional. Animal hides, furs, and plant fibers wrapped, tied, or sewn with bone needles. You improvise. You layer for warmth, patch for durability, and adapt for mobility. Each piece is a product of observation. Which fur insulates best? Which leaves repel water? Which weaving technique holds under strain? Congrats! You are among the first humans to literally wear survival. Shelter follows a similar logic. You seek natural cover: caves, rock overhangs, dense thickets. Then you improvise structures: lean-tos, huts of branches, hides stretched over frames. The goal is clear: protection from cold, wind, rain, and predators. Comfort is secondary. Safety is primary. You refine materials. Mud and clay seal gaps. Bark or leaves insulate walls. Smoke from the fire keeps insects at bay. Shelter becomes a carefully crafted microenvironment, a fragile barrier against chaos outside. One storm, one flood, and a poorly constructed hut becomes a death trap. Clothing and shelter evolve together. In cold regions, furs are thick, boots are stuffed with moss, and shelters are low to conserve heat. In warmer areas, clothing is minimal, lightweight, breathable, and protective against sunburn or insects. Adaptation is constant. Survival is geography dependent. And yes, there is ingenuity and humor in fashion. You might decorate hides with patterns, fringe, or painted designs. Children play with dangling bits of fur. Hunters add feathers or claws for prestige or intimidation. Even in necessity, Humans find ways to express themselves, mark identity, or amuse themselves. Layering is both art and science. You wrap, tie, and adjust constantly. Sweat is your enemy in cold conditions. Exposure is your enemy in heat. Bugs, thorns, and abrasive plants are constant nuisances. Every choice has a consequence. Misstep in clothing or shelter, and the day becomes a struggle. Misstep at night, and the stakes are deadly. Teaching clothing and shelter skills is vital. Young humans learn to scrape hides, sew seams, thatch roofs, and build fires. Every action is practical, and every lesson carries urgency. Mistakes are harsh teachers. Frostbite, cuts, or hypothermia reinforce the importance of precision. Shelter is also social. You build communal huts or shared fire pits. Proximity facilitates warmth, cooperation, and protection. Closeness also brings social tension, but the benefits outweigh the costs. Survival demands compromise, coordination, and shared responsibility. Seasonal movement shapes construction. Temporary shelters are light and portable. Semi-permanent structures incorporate heavier materials and more refined techniques. You learn to balance stability with mobility, strength with ease of assembly. Your architecture mirrors your lifestyle, adaptive, flexible, and in constant dialogue with the land. Clothing protects, communicates, and evolves. It carries cultural significance. Patterns may indicate group identity, rank, or achievement. Materials may signal trade connections or technological skill. Even functional items convey social information. Shelter and clothing together extend life. They turn the wilderness from a deadly expanse into a navigable environment. You manipulate materials to create comfort, warmth, and survival odds. You learn that dominance over nature is rarely brute force. It is intelligence, foresight, and adaptation. Congrats. Every stitch, every lash, every wall you build is an act of ingenuity, patience, and resilience. You are shaping the first human environments in the Americas. You are not just surviving, you are beginning to thrive.
You wake to the low murmur of voices, the shuffle of feet, the crackle of a small fire. Around you, your group moves in quiet coordination. Survival depends not just on skill, tools, or courage. It depends on cooperation. Community, social organization. Humans are social animals, and even the first Americans knew it. Groups are small but complex. Families cluster together. Extended kin networks share resources, knowledge, and responsibilities. Leadership is informal, often based on wisdom, skill, or experience. No crown, no throne, just earned respect, decisions made collectively, and guidance offered by those who have survived longer. Congrats. You are part of a living, breathing social system, centuries before governments exist. Roles are specialized but flexible. Hunters track and kill. Gatherers collect and store. Elders advise, heal, and remember. Children learn, play, and assist. Everyone contributes to the group's survival, and every action has consequences. Laziness or incompetence is punished, not with execution, usually, but with starvation, social isolation, or lost trust. Communication is constant. Subtle signals, gestures, and tones convey warnings, instructions, and observations. Sharing knowledge is vital. Where to find water, which plants are edible when predators roam. Information flow can mean life or death. Decision-making is collaborative. Hunting strategies, migration routes, and ritual timings are discussed, debated, and agreed upon. While some voices carry more weight due to experience or skill, everyone participates. Consensus ensures survival, reduces conflict, and strengthens group cohesion. Conflict is inevitable. Limited resources, personal grievances, or social tension spark disputes. Resolution is essential. Mediation, negotiation, and ritualized apologies prevent escalation. A fractured group is a weakened group. Survival depends on maintaining social bonds even under stress. Knowledge transfer is central. Skills, stories, and traditions are passed orally. Children observe, imitate, and practice. Rituals, songs, and myths encode practical knowledge and cultural identity simultaneously. Memory is not passive, it is active, constantly rehearsed, and socially reinforced. Social organization also supports innovation. Groups share discoveries, new tools, hunting strategies, or food storage methods. Collaboration accelerates learning. Knowledge is cumulative, allowing communities to adapt faster than isolated individuals could. Hierarchy exists, but it is situational. A skilled hunter may lead during a hunt. An experienced herbalist may guide health decisions. Leadership rotates depending on context, skill, and necessity. Authority is fluid, practical, and respected rather than enforced. Trade, interaction, and alliances expand social networks beyond immediate groups. Shared rituals, intermarriage, and resource exchange build regional cohesion. These networks enhance survival and reduce the risk of isolation. No group is an island. Rituals and spirituality reinforce social norms. Ceremonies mark milestones, seasonal changes, or important events. Participation strengthens identity, loyalty, and cooperation. Religion and social organization are intertwined, each supporting the other. Gender roles exist, but are dynamic. Tasks are often divided based on ability, experience, or circumstance, rather than rigid rules. Flexibility is essential. In emergencies, anyone may hunt, gather, or defend. Efficiency and survival trump dogma. Humor and social bonding are constant. Jokes, teasing, and storytelling create cohesion. Even in harsh environments, laughter strengthens relationships and reduces stress. Humans, even in the earliest communities, recognize the power of levity. Social organization is survival encoded in behavior. Cooperation, communication, and shared responsibility make the difference between life and death. Isolation is dangerous. Solidarity is life-saving. The group is both shield and engine, a network of interdependent humans moving through an indifferent landscape. Congrats! Your community is not just a collection of individuals. It is a complex system of knowledge, skill, culture, and trust, enabling humans to endure, adapt, and thrive across a vast, challenging continent.
You wake to the murmur of voices around the fire, a child mimicking the sound of a bird, the low chatter of adults planning the day's hunt. Language. Not just words, not just sounds, but the lifeblood of survival, cooperation, and culture. Without it, your group could not function. Communication is more than convenience. It is essential. Early language begins with necessity. Sounds signal danger, alert to food, or coordinate movements. A sharp whistle indicates a predator. A guttural hum signals a successful hunt. Over time, these noises become systematic, patterned, and interpretable by everyone in the group. Congrats! You are part of the first generation to shape dialogue, long before written words exist. Gestures accompany sounds. Pointing, nodding, facial expressions, and body movements enrich communication. A raised hand can stop a hunt. A crouched posture can indicate stealth. Even before fully formed sentences, your group is fluent in nuance, context, and intention. Survival depends on accuracy. Vocabulary grows organically. Objects, animals, actions, emotions, all acquire names. You create terms for river, bison, spear, fire, pain, hunger, joy. Words encode knowledge. Once named, things can be shared, remembered, and passed down. Naming is power. Knowledge becomes portable, and culture begins to solidify. Storytelling is central. Around the fire, elders recount hunts, encounters, and lessons. Stories preserve strategy, morality, and history. They entertain, instruct, and inspire. Every tale reinforces memory, social cohesion, and collective identity. Humor, irony, and exaggeration are part of the narrative. Even in survival, humans crave amusement. Language also enables negotiation. Trade, cooperation, and diplomacy depend on precise expression. Bartering a tool or securing an alliance requires clarity, persuasion, and sometimes subtlety. Miscommunication can mean failure or death. Words carry real weight in this world. Songs and chants emerge. Rhythm and repetition reinforce memory. They encode ritual, migration patterns, seasonal cycles, and social norms.
Music is intertwined with language, enhancing both function and emotional resonance. Humans are learning to convey not only facts, but feeling. Names carry significance. Individuals are recognized by personal traits, achievements, or lineage. Names reinforce identity, status, and group cohesion. They are more than labels. They are history, reputation, and memory embodied in sound. Language evolves through necessity. New objects, environmental challenges, or encounters with other groups introduce concepts that require description. Innovation in language mirrors innovation in technology and culture. Words evolve as the world changes around you. Teaching language is continuous. Children learn by observation, imitation, and participation. Mistakes are corrected gently, or sometimes harshly, because misunderstanding can have consequences. Language is survival, not decoration. Precision matters. And yes, playfulness survives even here. You joke with gestures, invent nonsense sounds, exaggerate words for effect. Humor, sarcasm, and irony appear alongside ritual and utility. Humans instinctively mix survival with amusement. Even in a world of scarcity, laughter persists. Language allows reflection and abstraction. You can plan, predict, and share ideas about the future. You can describe what isn't immediately visible, a distant herd, a remembered hunt, or a spiritual vision. Dialogue becomes a tool for strategy, learning, and imagination. Through language, your group becomes more than a collection of individuals. It becomes a cohesive unit capable of complex coordination, cultural transmission, and adaptation. Speech, gesture, and song create a web of understanding that amplifies every other skill: hunting, gathering, trading, and surviving. Congrats! Every word spoken, every story told, every gesture performed strengthens survival odds, reinforces community, and begins the long journey toward complex civilizations. Language is both shield and arrow. It protects, instructs, and projects your humanity across time. You wake to the rhythmic tapping of sticks on hollow logs, the steady hum of voices in unison, the soft shuffle of feet against packed earth. Music, dance, ritual, not just entertainment, they are central to identity, memory, and survival. The first Americans discover that expression is as vital as food, tools, and fire. Music begins organically, humming, drumming on natural surfaces, clapping hands, stomping feet. These rhythms accompany work, hunting, and communal gatherings. Patterns emerge naturally: simple beats, repeated sequences, and call-and-response structures. They organize action, mark time, and soothe nerves. Congrats! You are participating in one of humanity's earliest forms of shared expression. Dance follows instinctively. Movement mirrors rhythm, tells stories, and conveys emotion. Hunters mimic the stealth of animals. Gatherers celebrate a fruitful harvest. Children mimic elders, experimenting with balance, gesture, and improvisation. Dance is communication through the body, visual and kinetic storytelling that complements words, ritual, and song. Rituals are inseparable from music and dance. Ceremonies mark life's milestones: birth, puberty, death, seasonal shifts, or successful hunts. Music and movement reinforce memory, social cohesion, and spiritual connection. Participation is not optional. It is a shared duty that maintains balance between humans, environment, and the unseen forces that guide life. Instruments appear in primitive forms. Hollowed logs, bone flutes, shells, rattles, and stones become carriers of sound. Each requires observation, skill, and experimentation. Creating and mastering instruments is both functional and artistic, a tool for communication, ceremony, and emotional release. Repetition is key. Songs and dances encode practical knowledge, migration patterns, hunting strategies, and social norms. Repeated movement reinforces memory. Every gesture, every note, every rhythm carries meaning. Music becomes a vessel for culture and survival simultaneously. Music and dance are also social glue. Shared rhythms synchronize group behavior, facilitate cooperation, and strengthen bonds. Large gatherings, sometimes involving multiple groups, cement alliances, exchange knowledge, and reinforce hierarchy.
Participation affirms belonging. Abstention signals marginality. Emotion flows through music. Joy, fear, anticipation, reverence, and mourning are expressed collectively. Songs can calm infants, steady warriors, or honor ancestors. Dance channels grief or celebration. These expressions release tension, reinforce identity, and sustain mental resilience in a harsh world. Humor, irony, and play survive in ritual contexts. Exaggerated gestures, comic songs, or playful mimicry lighten ceremonies and allow safe social critique. Even in solemn contexts, humans instinctively integrate levity. Laughter becomes a survival mechanism, a social glue, and a reminder that life is absurdly fragile. Ritual movement reinforces learning. Children mirror elders, imitating gestures and sounds. Knowledge of the natural world, social norms, and spiritual beliefs is passed nonverbally. Dance and music are mnemonic devices, embedding memory and culture in the body. Ritual objects amplify expression. Painted masks, carved figurines, or feathered adornments enhance visual storytelling. They communicate social rank, spiritual intent, or cultural affiliation. Every element, sound, movement, and object, works in concert to create meaning. Through music, dance, and ritual, your group experiences transcendence. You connect to ancestors, spirits, and each other. You rehearse survival strategies while celebrating life. You encode history, knowledge, and emotion in ways that outlive individuals. Congrats. Every drumbeat, footfall, and hum is more than art. It is memory, identity, and social cohesion. It transforms survival into culture, necessity into expression, and daily life into a shared human experience. In a world ruled by unpredictability, music and dance create order, comfort, and community. Through these early forms of expression, the first Americans leave a legacy, demonstrating that even in a harsh and uncertain world, humans seek rhythm, connection, and meaning. Music and dance are not optional luxuries. They are essential threads weaving individuals into society. You wake to the wind brushing across the plains, the distant roar of a waterfall, the whisper of the forest. Everything around you is a product of time, adaptation, and resilience. And somewhere deep within this landscape lies your legacy. You, the first Americans, shaped not only your survival but the trajectory of an entire continent. Legacy begins quietly, in daily actions. Every tool you craft, every fire you kindle, every route you traverse carries lessons forward. Knowledge is cumulative. Observation, experimentation, and creativity are passed from generation to generation. You may never read your own story, but your descendants will inherit it, consciously or unconsciously, encoded in habits, language, and culture. Congrats. You are a link in the chain that binds past to future. Agriculture, born from careful gathering and experimentation, begins to redefine human life. The seeds you plant, the patches of cleared land you tend, the storage techniques you develop, they echo through centuries. Later societies will cultivate fields across vast landscapes, all because your hands learned to nurture the earth first. Tools and technology leave a quiet mark. The flint knives, bone needles, woven baskets, and watercraft you create influence survival strategies for millennia. Each innovation, each refinement, becomes a building block for more complex societies. The sophistication may increase, but the principles remain rooted in your ingenuity and observation. Social organization continues to shape humanity. Leadership, cooperation, conflict resolution, and knowledge transmission establish patterns that future communities will emulate. Kinship, alliance building, and ritualized authority are threads connecting your era to the complex civilizations that will rise long after you are gone. Language preserves identity, memory, and culture. Every word, gesture, and story carries information forward. Your myths, songs, and narratives become the foundation of cultural continuity. Future generations will adapt, expand, and transform these oral traditions, but they will always trace back to the first people who spoke of their world, their experiences, and their survival. Spirituality and ritual are lasting. honoring ancestors, interpreting natural forces, celebrating milestones, and integrating humor and creativity into sacred practices persist across time. Your ways of understanding life and death, the natural and supernatural, will influence beliefs, ceremonies, and moral frameworks far into the future. Trade networks, born of necessity and curiosity, expand human connectivity. The routes you establish, the objects you exchange, and the alliances you nurture create the earliest frameworks of regional interaction. Centuries later, these networks will underpin more formal economies, political structures, and cultural exchanges. Art, music, and dance endure as markers of identity, emotion, and imagination. The murals you paint, the rhythms you drum, and the dances you perform carry stories, lessons, and aesthetic sensibilities across generations. Even when civilizations rise and fall, echoes of your creativity resonate in human expression. And yes, your humor survives. Playfulness, irony, and levity embedded in daily life, ritual, and social interaction continue to shape human culture. Even in a world driven by survival, laughter, mockery, and jest persist as vital threads connecting humanity across time. Adaptation is your silent gift. Your strategies for clothing, shelter, hunting, gathering, and navigating harsh environments inform every subsequent generation. Survival is both immediate and long-term, and your ability to adjust, innovate, and cooperate creates a blueprint for human resilience. Through all this, your presence becomes invisible, yet undeniable. You leave footprints in stone, soil, and story. Later peoples may encounter your tools, your art, your burial sites, and your oral traditions. They may not know your names, faces, or exact deeds, but they inherit your ingenuity, knowledge, and spirit. Congrats. You are foundational, uncelebrated, and profound. Your actions created continuity across millennia. Without your experiments, observations, and collaborations, later societies in the Americas could not have flourished. You are the first chapter in a story that will continue to unfold long after your own life ends. Your legacy is survival, innovation, culture, and humanity itself. Every trail you walk, every fire you light, every word you speak becomes part of a vast, unfolding tapestry. You may never see the consequences, yet they ripple forward, shaping the continent and its people for thousands of years. And so, you leave the world a little more habitable, a little more knowable, and profoundly richer for having been there. You are not just the first Americans, you are the seed of everything to come.